What's the most disgusted you've been by barracks food? 3 weeks into basic training at Paris Island, we thought we'd seen the worst the mess hall could offer. Green eggs that bounced when dropped, meat that looked like it died twice, milk that expired before it was even processed. Then came the night we'll never forget. 2 a.m. fire drill, entire company scrambling outside in underwear and boots. Standing in formation for 2 hours while they investigated a gas leak that turned out to be someone microwaving fish in the barracks. By the time we got back inside, we'd missed evening chow. Starving recruits don't sleep well. Our drill instructor took pity on us around 5 a.m. and announced emergency rations would be available in the mess hall. Emergency rations. Should have been our first warning. The cook on duty was this ancient civilian contractor named Earl who'd been feeding Marines since Vietnam. Guy looked like he'd been pickled in grease for 40 years. Always had a cigarette hanging from his lip, ash falling into whatever he was stirring. Got some leftover surprise for you boys, Earl wheezed, pointing to 3 massive steel pots that had been sitting on warmers all night, maybe longer. First pot contained what he called protein medley, chunks of unidentifiable meat floating in gray gravy. Some pieces were pink, others green. One recruit swore he saw something moving. Second pot held vegetable surprise. Looked like someone had emptied a garbage disposal into boiling water. Corn kernels mixed with what might have been carrots, if carrots grew black spots and had the texture of rubber. Third pot was the worst. Seafood special, Earl announced proudly. The smell hit us from 20 feet away. Fish that had definitely seen better decades. Shrimp that looked like they'd crawled out of a toxic waste dump. We were so hungry we didn't care. Started loading our trays with whatever looked least likely to kill us immediately. That's when Private Murphy made a discovery that still haunts me. "Hey, this chicken's got writing on it," he said, holding up a piece of the protein medley. We gathered around. Sure enough, stamped on the meat in faded blue ink. Reject, not for human consumption, March 1987. This was September 2003. That meat was older than half our platoon. But Earl wasn't done. As we stood there in horror, he ladled more of the ancient chicken onto Murphy's tray. "That's just the inspection stamp, son. Don't pay it no mind. Meat's good for decades if you cook it right." The smell was getting worse. Sweet, rotten, mixed with industrial disinfectant. 3 guys ran for the bathroom. 2 more just stood there dry heaving. That's when Sergeant Williams walked in, took one look at the situation, one whiff of the food, and his face went green. This man had eaten MREs in the desert for 6 months straight. Nothing fazed him. "What in the hell is that smell?" he demanded. Earl beamed with pride. "Special treat for the boys, Sergeant. Been saving this batch for a special occasion." Williams grabbed a fork, stabbed a piece of the ancient chicken, held it up to the light. The meat was translucent, literally see-through. When he dropped it, it bounced twice before settling. "Earl," Williams said slowly, "how long has this food been sitting here?" "Oh, just since Tuesday," Earl replied cheerfully. "Which Tuesday?" "Well, Tuesday before last. Maybe the one before that. Hard to keep track." Williams looked at us, then at the food, then back at Earl. "You're feeding my recruits 3-week-old reject meat that was condemned 16 years ago? Waste not, want not," Earl shrugged. "Marine Corps taught me that." What happened next was beautiful. Williams made Earl eat a full plate of his own cooking. Every last bite. Watched him chew and swallow the ancient bouncing chicken, the green vegetables, even a spoonful of the toxic seafood special. Earl made it through about half the plate before running to the bathroom. Didn't see him for the rest of basic training. Rumor was he got transferred to a desk job after spending 3 days in the base hospital. We ended up eating peanut butter sandwiches for breakfast. Best meal we'd had since arriving at Paris Island. From that day forward, Williams personally inspected every meal before we ate. Found expired food regularly. 1 can of corn was from the Clinton administration. A bag of rice had a Bush Senior expiration date. The mess hall got completely overhauled after an investigation. New contractors, new equipment, new policies, everything dated and rotated properly. But I'll never forget that morning. Standing in a mess hall at 5 a.m., holding a tray of meat older than my little sister, while a cigarette-smoking cook tried to convince us it was perfectly fine.